Invite your attention to Matthew chapter 13. We want to read verse 10, beginning at verse 10, and read down through verse 15, 16, verse 16. The setting is, it's the evening time. He has come out of a house, which all took place at the end of chapter 12. And he has moved into a solitary moment as he sat by the sea, according to verse 1. The multitudes, of course, from the day found out where he was, and they all came. And they pressed him. The indication is they pressed against him so strongly that he got into a boat and went out from the seashore and preached from that point. And he began to tell parables. And we're given a parable in chapter 13, verse 3, down through verse 9. A parable is given to us. And then this scene takes place. And the disciples came and said to him, "Why do you speak to them in parables?" He answered and said to them, "Because it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For whoever has, to him more will be given, and he will have abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he has, will be taken away from him. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. And in them the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled, which says, Hearing you will hear and shall not understand. Seeing you will see and not perceive. For the hearts of this people have grown dull. Their eyes are hard of hearing. Their ears are hard of hearing. Their eyes they have closed, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their hearts and turn, so that I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, your ears, for they hear." Let's bow in prayer. This evening, Lord, is a bit different. I'm not sure what you want to do. Oh, I'm sure what you want to do, but I'm not sure how you want to do it. And whatever that takes, whatever you need to do, we're open to it. We're available. Because, Jesus, we really do want to know truth. Whatever it does to us, however it changes us, whatever it alters in us, however it makes us different, we really do want truth. So we open ourselves to you tonight for your direct speaking to our hearts. In your name I pray. Amen. The whole premise of this passage revolves around truth. And a week ago, I guess 2 weeks ago tonight, we started in on this. And I gave you the first part of a three-part concept. 3 aspects of one concept. And I think I did such a poor job, I decided I was going to do the whole thing again. And I've revamped it a little bit. You probably don't remember anyhow, so it's probably different enough that you won't even recognize it. But the essence of what's going on in the passage, and I'm not sure this is a deal where preaching is adequate. Maybe just talking to you would be better. I'm not sure how this needs to be done. But the very essence of the passage is about the truth, which of course is not facts and not data and information, but is about the person himself. And that's a difficult concept for most people to get a hold of, because we equate facts, 2 + 2 = 4, that's true. We equate facts with the truth. And when all of a sudden you say, oh, truth is not about facts, truth is about this person who's standing right here, And his name is Jesus. And he is the truth. See, how do you relate to that? Do you mean he tells the truth? And obviously that would be right. He does tell the truth. He lives the truth. Obviously everything he does is a demonstration of the truth of the Father. So definitely he tells the truth. Definitely he lives the truth. But it's not that. Those are all an external response. Those are all a natural response to the essence of who he is. So the investigation of truth is going after this person of Jesus and literally beginning to peel the layers of his being back as he allows that to happen in your life until you begin to see him and him alone. So what we really want is a revelation of the person of Jesus for your life. We're not trying to teach you biblical information. We're not trying to give you biblical experiences. What we're really trying to do, it seems to me, and the whole aspect of what we want and what the heart of God is about, is that he would bring us into an embrace of the person of Jesus so deeply and strongly that you would know the truth simply because you know it. Which is again back to the Jeremiah 31:31 thing where he says, oh, the new covenant. What's going to happen is no one will need to teach another person about the Lord. We'll just all know. So if I have to tell you, you haven't got it. And if I have to tell you, I can't tell you. Which is what our passage is all about. And we're entitling this study tonight, The Danger of Truth. And this is really, I have to say, this has really got through to me in a very difficult way. And I want to begin with the idea of proclamation. The whole setting, and you can't understand what's going on in the passage we read unless you get a hold of the setting of this and see where it comes from. I mean, that's just absolutely essential. And of course, if you've been here, we've gone over this setting dozens and dozens of times, it seems like. And the setting, of course, is Matthew chapter 12. And in Matthew chapter 12, you've got a strong, distinct proclamation of truth. It's blaring. And Jesus has been doing that all along, proclaiming truth. I mean, he just looked people in the eye and told them, hey, you got a wart on your nose. I mean, he just told them. He just looked them right in the eye and laid it out for them and told truth. He did it in the Sermon on the Mount. I mean, it was so blaring, it just blew them out of their socks. They just, just knocked them out of their senses. They just had never heard anything. It was truth. It wasn't camouflaged. He didn't water it down. He didn't say, well, I'll tell you a little bit and entice you into it, and then I'll begin to expand, give you more tomorrow. It was just wham. And in this particular setting, the truth that he's giving is not, I got up this sermon, I'm going to preach it tomorrow morning, and when I preach it, hey, it may apply to you, it may not, I don't know. I don't know your setting. It isn't that. He isn't doing that in this setting. In this setting of chapter 12, he's not gotten up a sermon to deliver to them. He is literally allowing the truth to confront them in their setting, in their scene. In other words, the questions they ask, he addresses with truth. So they set the stage, they set the perimeters, they set the setting in which the truth is going to be given. So this is not truth being imposed upon them. This is truth that is literally spilling out of the very essence of what they are about and where they are. So he's hitting them directly in the middle of their own personal lives, which seems to me to be really important and really is what he's wanting to do for you. In other words, this is not philosophical truth. Well, that's nice. Hey, think about that. It's over here. We can argue about that. It's not that. This is right down where I live in my relationships, my job, my reactions, my habits, what I'm all about. And he's speaking truth to that scene. Did that make sense to you? See, it's not theology anymore. It's not over there. See, we like that because we can dismiss it. That's why we love the second coming stuff. See, we love to talk about the second coming. Woo! So who's the Antichrist? Let's debate it. Whoa. Why? Because that doesn't affect my job. That doesn't affect how I treat you. See, we can discuss that over here, but when it comes right down to, hey, how am I going to act under this pressure, in this circumstances, how is truth going to come to me here? That's what is so irritating in chapter 12. That's how they got so irritated, because here's a setting, they ask a question, and truth. In their world, and it wasn't a debatable thing. And I don't like that. I like to debate. For instance, an example, chapter 12, verse 1 through 8 is the controversy of the grain field. And again, we've gone over and over this. Look, your disciples are doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath day. So there's their proposition. And Jesus gives them 3 illustrations right out of their scriptures, just wham, 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 that apply to what they are doing right there, that moment in their scene. Now, he has never told parables up to this time. And if you say, well, yes, he did. At the end of the Sermon on the Mount, he told a parable. The wise man, the foolish man. Well, he used illustrations. But there's a difference, I'm finding, in the passage between illustrations and parables. Parables is a whole other breed of cat. It's a whole different deal. It's a whole brand new thing. It's not an illustration. He's not trying to illustrate a truth with a parable. Now, obviously, a parable does illustrate a truth, but that's not the purpose of a parable. A parable is a whole different ballgame, and according to this, he's not been doing that up to this time. He's been illustrating, but he's not been telling parables. And parables is a brand new deal. And of course, as you get into this, you begin to ask, well, why is he telling parables now? Which is what the disciples asked. And it all spills out of what happened in chapter 12. So what happened in chapter 12? Jesus just looked them consistently, and he's been doing this through his whole ministry, looked them consistently in the eye, wham, 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 truth. Just laid it out for them. Just proclaimed truth. Now again, he wants to do that in your life. I got to convince you of that. He wants to do that for them. He wants to do that for you. He wants to tell you the truth, if you will let him. See, will you let him tell you the truth? I mean, will you open up your life and say, hey, tell me the truth. Don't camouflage it. Don't pat me on the back. Don't build me up. Don't say the right thing. Don't give what would make me feel good. Forget my feelings. Forget what'll change or not change. Will you, just plain flat, Jesus, look me in the eye and proclaim the truth to me? See, are you open to that? Now, he wants to do that. And he wants to do that for these guys. So when you begin to read, like in our passage, it's been given to you to know the truth, but to them it's not been given. It's like, oh, I don't want them to know the truth. That's not so. That you've misinterpreted the passage. Because he wants them to know the truth. He's desperate for them to know the truth. He wants you to know the truth. Everybody here, he desires for you to know the truth. He wants to have the opportunity to look you right in the eye and say, hey, here is the bottom line of truth for your life. And in the middle of your scene, you're saying, well, forevermore, what am I supposed to do? He wants to look you in the eye and say, hey, here it is. The difficulty is the protest. See, there's not only a proclamation in the setting, there is a protest in the setting. And the protest is, don't tell me the truth. See, I don't want the truth. He wants to tell the truth, but I don't want the truth. See, I want him to pat me on the back. I want him to say, oh, everything will be all right. Just continue. Hey, there's no big deal. Listen, I'll take care of it all at the end. Yeah, when you die, I'll fix it. See, I want that. That's what I want. But he wants to tell me the truth. Now again, remember, truth is not 2 + 2 = 4. Truth is him. He is the truth. And he distinctly wants to reveal himself to you. Wants to do that. And there's no indication at all in the passage that there's any, oh, I'm mad at you, I'm not going to tell you the truth anymore. There's none of that going on. His heart beats consistently to give you nothing but the truth. But there's this protest that's going on in the setting, and they are constantly shutting him down, building the wall, resisting. Now, the reason you know that is because in the setting, there is also a progression. So what you got in the setting is you got this proclamation of truth that produced a protest that brought about a progression. In other words, resisting the truth isn't just a one-time shot. It begins to progress in your life. It accelerates. It's like a snowball rolling downhill in the winter. You pick up as you go along. And what was small suddenly is huge. And you see that in the passage. For instance, again, in chapter 12, verse 1 through 8, there's this, hey, what about the grain field thing? The controversy in the grain field. Look, your disciples are doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath day. Jesus gives them 3 distinct illustrations of truth and just nails them on this thing and says, hey, God is more interested in human need and meeting the need of the human being than he is in the rules he made himself. And he gives 3 illustrations of it. I mean, just lays it out. Now, there's no reaction in the scene at all. It's like they didn't even hear him. They didn't say, well, what about this? Or how about over in Isaiah it says? Or see, there was no question. There was no response at all. But then in the next setting, which is the controversy of the synagogue, there is a response. It says, when he had departed from there, this is verse 9, he went into the synagogue, and behold, there was a man with a withered hand, and they asked him, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? That they might accuse him. Now, Luke says they planted this guy there because they knew exactly what Jesus would do. So they got a guy with a withered hand on the Sabbath day, planted him in the doorway of the synagogue, so when Jesus came in, he'd see him, and they knew Jesus would heal the guy. So they set the whole, which is their response to the grain field thing. Do you see that? So they walked away from the grain field. They didn't ask a question about anything he said. Why? Truth was so strong. What could they say? And they walked away from that and said, oh, we will protest this truth. How are we going to protest this truth? This is so much like us, isn't it? How are we going to protest this truth? We will trap him and embarrass him. We'll set up a scene where he won't be able to survive. And so they planted a man with a withered hand. Now, what did Jesus do? Jesus marched right in the middle of that, healed the guy, and gave them truth. Illustration. Sheep falling into the pit. The illustration. And nailed him. How did they respond to that? There was no response, folks. They didn't raise a hand and say, wow, What if the sheep had a blemish? See, no, there was no question. They didn't. See, there was no discussion, no. Now, maybe there was, and it's not recorded. We don't know. But as Matthew lays it out, there's nothing going on. There's no response from these guys. Except, in verse 14, they went to the conference room and plotted murder. So do you see the progression in that? They go from one setting to, we'll accuse him and trap him and embarrass him. And when that didn't work, they went to the conference room to make plans how they're going to murder and destroy him. Not if we will, but how we will. Now, while they're doing that, of course, Jesus is out healing all these people. When they came out of there, evidently the conclusion was, there's no way to get rid of the man. How are we going to kill him? We can't kill him because the crowds love him. And if we do something about it, the offerings will go down, and we can't have that. So, we're in trouble. So what's the next step? See, when you can't do anything about truth, what's the next step? You badmouth it. So they begin to spread in the crowd. This fella does not, this is verse 24, this fella does not cast out demons except by Beelzebub, the ruler of demons. So they badmouth him. But that's the way we do. See, when I don't have an answer to truth, what do? I badmouth. I degrade. I demean. See, when you look me in the eye and tell me the truth, you know what I do? I look right back at you and say, well, you're not all that hot either. Yeah, you're not all that hot either. Did you know your feet stink? So I badmouth. So just remember, every time you badmouth somebody, it's because truth has come to you and you aren't facing it. Because we can't think of anything else to do. And it's the only way to handle truth that we know of. Because we can't do anything about truth. I can't change Jesus. He's beyond my capability. I can't outwit him. I can't even crucify him at this point. Because he's already raised from the dead. So what am I going to do? I badmouth, which is exactly what they did. So they badmouthed him. So do you see the progression in this? So they've gone from, we'll set up a scene and trap him, to, that didn't work, we'll plot murder. There's no way to get that done. Now we'll badmouth him. And finally, when that didn't work, they backed off and another group took over because Jesus just wore them out. So another group took over and said, we want a sign. And when that didn't work, they ended up with the birthing thing with, hey, who is my family? You guys aren't even born right. That's your problem. You don't even have the right father. Now, after all of that, and the progression, the proclamation, and the protesting, and then the progression of that thing, as it progressed in their life, and they got worse, you come to chapter 13. And in chapter 13, Jesus says, hey, parables. Why is he telling parables? Because they won't accept truth. Now, I really want you to get this. They won't accept truth. Now, the first aspect that we're trying to deal with tonight is the danger of truth. I got to convince you that truth is you're better off not to hear than you are to hear and resist. See, if this is a place of truth, oh my stars, what we ought to do is put skull, crossbones, danger, come at your own risk, this may kill you, on the front of the church. Because truth is really, really, really dangerous. And a couple Saturdays ago, I gave you some scriptures on that. Let me just whip through a couple of those. Listen to this. For the Word of God, truth, Word, Jesus, Logos, probably referring to the person of Jesus. Could be referring to the written Word. Yeah. Could be referring to the living Word. Yeah. Well, really isn't any difference. Yeah. So, the Word of God is living and powerful. Think of this. Living and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the division of soul and spirit and of joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intent of the heart. That's truth. Who would want that in their lives? Do you know the danger of that? If the Word of God is sharper than a two-edged sword and does surgery and cuts and divides and severs, can you imagine being under an operation, and the doctor, he's got his sharp knives and he's got his saws and he's going at it, man, and he didn't put you to sleep and you're wiggling all over the place. You're in trouble because you're protesting the surgery. So he knocks you out, puts you to sleep so you cannot protest. Only what's going on in truth is you're not knocked out. Truth comes like a sharp two-edged sword. Whoa. And if you begin to wiggle around, you know what it's going to do? It's going to kill you, man. Truth is going to slice you to death. It's going to destroy your life. This is dangerous. Truth is dangerous. Now we saw that also in John 1, 4 and 5 in the lighted dark thing. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. So what does light, truth, do to darkness, untruth? It just obliviates it. It removes it. It just eliminates it. It's gone, man. Because darkness cannot survive. And yet, in the scenario that he's painting here, if you decide, no, I'm going to hide in darkness, I'm going to cling to darkness, and light keeps trying to eliminate the darkness of my life, do you realize the battle of that thing that you have created in your life that literally destroys you? So I'm trying to tell you that truth is very, very dangerous. Well, how dangerous is this truth? Well, he gives that in verse 11. He answered and said to them, because it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it's not been given. Now, he sets up two categories in verse 11. Number one, the category of given to you to know. Second category, but not given to them, but not given to know. So given to know and not given to know are the two categories. It's been given to you to know, but it's not been given them to know. Now, at first glance, you would say, oh, so he selected the disciples. I want you to know. Oh, those Pharisees, not going to let them know. I'm cutting them out. But I want you to know, but not those. Which is predestination. And if you come to me and say, do you believe in predestination? Well, absolutely. How could you not? But it's not predestination to the person. It's predestination to the group. In other words, God doesn't come and say, oh, here's Sam and Sally. I want them to know. Here's Pete and John. No, you're out. No, he said, here's a group of people who are seeking me. I predestined them to know. Here's a group of people that truth is absolutely destroying them because they're protesting. They're wiggling under the surgery. And because it's destroying them, I'm camouflaging it. I'm telling parables because I don't want it to kill them. See, I don't want to get them. See, this is not a Jesus who's mad saying, oh, you guys resisted the truth in chapter 12, so I'll just cut you out. It isn't that. And it isn't an individual that he's doing this to. It's a group of people. So you got two groups. You got the group over here who's open, the group over here who's not open. And Jesus is saying, oh, the group that's not open to truth, when you give them truth, what does it do to them? It destroys their lives. So I'm going to tell parables. I'm going to put a shell around truth so it won't destroy them. It'll give them more time. They'll be able to work with it, and it'll be able to get through to them. I'm going to plant seeds in them. I'm going to allow it to grow in them. I'm going to give them more chance. If I just give them blaring truth, it'll destroy them. Now, these guys over here, you're getting the truth. Why? Because you're open, and you don't wiggle in the surgery. That's the picture. And he goes on then in verse 12 to give the principle of that. For whoever has, to him more will be given. Well, that makes sense. He will have abundance. So here's a guy who has truth. Guess what? He's going to get more truth. Why? He's open to it. So I'm pouring truth out upon him. Well, what's the other group? The other group is, but whoever does not have, which is a little bit interesting. If you don't have, how can what you have be taken away from you if you didn't have in the first place? I should make that an assignment and send you home on that one. Because if you think you don't have now, wait till what you have is taken from you. In other words, this thing is shrinking, folks. See, I'm trying to tell you, truth is dangerous. If you're in this group, oh, it builds you. If you're in this group, it will. Jesus said, "Hey, I'm telling parables. Why? Because this is going to kill them, man. They're wiggling under the surgery, and I can't have this." So parables is my style of preaching. Where are you in your response to truth? Well, how can I tell? Well, I could give you some signs, I think. Let me ask you how much you desire truth. If you would put a thermometer in the mouth of your desire for truth, how hot would it be? Are you just trying to get by? You just trying to solve this problem and then solve that problem and just, hey, if life could just be more? Or are you really after truth? I mean, after truth. Well, again, how can I tell if I'm after truth? Well, what's your passion? Come on, what's your passion? What are you after? Do you really want to know? And it's easy to find out when you talk to people whether they want truth or not. Hey, would you get me a drink of water out of that well? It's a Gentile woman. And Jesus has asked her for a drink. She gets the water, brings it over. Why are you asking me? And they fall into a conversation. Well, she said, our fathers say we should worship in this mountain. Your fathers say, see, you don't want truth. Because the minute truth comes to you, what do? Well, our fathers, you say, and you bring up theological debate. See, you get off the subject. See, do you really want truth? I mean, do you have a passion for truth? And would you be willing for anything to take place in your life that truth would want to do? Are you protecting? Are you guarding? Would you let truth change your personality? Wouldn't it be awful if you aren't who you are? And if you've never been who you really are? Well, this is the way I am. Wouldn't it be awful if you're not that way at all? That you have had a bunch of garbage that for the last how many ever years has just been heaped on you and shaped you and molded you, and truth has never come through. And you've never been able to be who you really are, because truth was never turned loose to do its surgical work in your life. Well, Manley, what great truth do you have for us? Jesus, who is the truth. Lord, I don't want truth to kill me. I don't want to wiggle into the surgery. I want to respond. I don't want to protest. I don't want to set up barriers. I don't want to dig in my heels. I'm sick of doing things out of appearance. I don't want what's acceptable. I don't want this looks good. Lord, all my actions have angles instead of seeking for truth. Please, Jesus, don't tell me parables. Look me in the eye and tell me the truth. Break me, smash me, strip me down. Do in my life. Hey, I'm not going to wiggle into the surgery. Let truth that is you do its thing in me. I want to be in the group. It's been given to them to know the truth. Be careful. Heads are bowed. Be careful. Be careful. Truth is dangerous. Truth is dangerous. And the chances are you won't survive truth. It will bring you to death that he might live. Do you want truth? Moments of seeking.